Remember that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Well, thankfully, when it comes to our brains, that's ancient history.
Right. It's incredible how we now know our brains can change and adapt throughout our lives. We call that neuroplasticity.
Like a superpower we all have. And you're in the right place because in this deep dive, we'll uncover how to unlock your brain's potential for healing, boosting memory, even influencing happiness.
We've got fascinating research to dig into, groundbreaking neuroscience, even insights into how ancient practices like meditation can physically change our brains.
Okay, so let's unpack neurogenesis, one of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience. What is it?
Well, we used to think we were born with a set number of brain cells, about 100 billion, and that was it. But neurogenesis throws that out the window.
We aren't stuck with those brain cells. The idea of my brain making new cells is mind-blowing.
Neurogenesis is our brains growing new neurons, not just maintaining the ones we have. It changes how we understand the brain's potential.
Wow, that changes everything. Where does this happen?
It happens in a few places, but a key area is the hippocampus. It's like your brain's memory card, essential for memories, learning, and even regulating our emotions.
So it impacts our well-being.
Exactly. And the EOC Institute, one of our sources today, points to meditation as a powerful way to stimulate this neurogenesis, especially in the hippocampus.
Meditation, like a workout for our brain.
Exactly. The EOC Institute compares it to physical exercise, like lifting weights strengthens muscles, meditation strengthens neural pathways, a brain workout.
They said meditation provides seeds, fertilizer, and the perfect environment for new neuron growth.
Creating the perfect conditions for your brain to flourish. And they suggest even short meditations like 10 minutes a day can impact hippocampal volume.
So you don't need to be a monk meditating for hours to get benefits.
Not at all. And the benefits can be profound, especially for memory and even dealing with depression.
Those are two areas I think a lot of us could use a boost in. What does the research say?
Well, the EOC Institute highlights studies that show a shrinking hippocampus in individuals with depression.
Depression might actually be linked to a physically smaller hippocampus. That's concerning.
It is. But meditation seems to counteract this shrinking by boosting neurogenesis. It could mean a healthier hippocampus, leading to better emotional regulation and resilience.
So we can potentially improve our memory and our ability to handle challenges.
And speaking of memory, our Very Well Mind source highlights Dr. Larry Squire's work. His research shows just how crucial the hippocampus is for forming memories.
What did he find?
He showed that the hippocampus is essential for what we call declarative memories, remembering facts, events, experiences.
The memories we use every day, like what we did yesterday, who we met, what we need at the grocery store.
Right. Without a healthy hippocampus, those memories become a lot harder to form and access. And Dr. Sarah Lazar, a neuroscientist at Harvard, has done groundbreaking work looking at the brains of experienced meditators.
This is the study where they looked at brain scans of meditators.
And then they found that meditators had more robust hippocampi, physically larger and healthier than non-meditators.
Amazing. It's like meditation is a workout specifically for this crucial area for memory and emotional well-being.
You could say that.
This is fascinating. But neuroplasticity isn't just about meditation. It's how our brains adapt to all kinds of experiences. What are some other ways we can boost our brain power?
Hit me.
First, embrace novelty. Trying new things, learning new skills, even just experiencing new environments. Why is this important?
Novelty shakes things up. When you encounter something new, your brain has to work harder to understand it. And that strengthens neural connections.
Stepping outside our comfort zone is like a workout for our brains.
The more you challenge yourself, the more adaptable and resilient your brain becomes.
So trying new things, challenging ourselves, that makes sense. But what about something more passive, like sleep? We all know it's important, but how does it tie into neuroplasticity?
Sleep is crucial for neuroplasticity. Our friends at Apollo Neuro, another source today, are all over this. During sleep, our brains are busy, consolidating memories, clearing out toxins, hitting the reset button for optimal brain function.
Like a cleaning crew comes in and gets everything organized.
Yeah. And it's not just how much, but the quality of sleep that matters. Apollo Neuro did a study that showed a 19% increase in deep sleep for users of their wearable device.
That's a big difference. So we've got novelty, sleep. What else boosts brain power?
Well, Apollo Neuro also talks about mental exercise. Anything from a new language to brain training games to even conversations like we're having.
Keep our brains active, just like our body.
Exactly. And you don't have to run a marathon to see benefits. Even short bursts help. Read, do a crossword, learn a recipe, they all add up.
That's good to hear. I was starting to think I needed a PhD.
Not at all. And speaking of challenging our brains, don't forget about eating.
Mindful eating, you mentioned this earlier. How does that connect to neuroplasticity?
Paying attention to our food has a huge impact on our brains. Mindful eating engages all our senses: sight, smell, taste, the texture of our food.
So instead of like scarfing down a sandwich in front of the TV, we're really savoring each bite.
Exactly. And that actually strengthens those neural pathways, making our brains more adaptable.
It's like a sensory workout with every meal.
You got it. Being fully present, even with something like eating.
This is eye-opening. Neurogenesis, meditation, embracing novelty, sleep, mental exercise, mindful eating. That's a lot for boosting brain power.
It's a powerful toolkit, and these things work together, they complement each other.
Someone who meditates might be more likely to enjoy mindful eating or new challenges.
They create a positive feedback loop for brain health.
We've covered a lot, but for our listeners, why does all of this matter? How does this impact our everyday lives?
That's the question, right? It's not just about trivia night, although that's a nice bonus.
I'll take any advantage I can get.
Of course. But it's about showing up as our best selves in all areas of life.
How does that translate to, like, real-life examples?
Imagine prepping for a big work presentation.
Got my slides, coffee's ready, feeling the pressure.
Now imagine you've been doing all this neuroplasticity stuff. You're not just memorizing, you're connecting ideas, you're more adaptable to questions, you stay calm and focused.
So I'm not flustered. I'm like a neuroplasticity ninja.
Exactly. You're tapping into your brain's ability to adapt and be flexible, and that's a game changer in those situations.
Okay, that's compelling. What about someone feeling stuck, maybe wanting a career change, but intimidated by learning new skills?
That fear holds people back. But with neuroplasticity, you're not starting from zero. You're not too old to learn. Your brain is ready to adapt.
Like giving ourselves permission to try new things, knowing our brains can handle it.
It's empowering. You're not limited by your past or your skills now. You can literally rewire your brain for success.
So neuroplasticity is the key to unlocking our potential.
I think so.
Before we wrap up, one more thing, synaptic pruning. It's a brain teaser, but so interesting.
It's fascinating. It shows how dynamic our brains are. Neurogenesis grows connections, but synaptic pruning gets rid of the ones we don't use.
Like cleaning out a closet. We get rid of old stuff to make room for new stuff.
Great analogy. Our brains benefit from getting rid of what we don't need.
How does that happen? Do we choose?
It's not a conscious choice, thankfully. Our brains are always figuring out what we're using and not using. Connections we use get stronger, the others fade away.
So it's about what we're focusing on, what we do, what we take in.
Exactly. Every experience, every thought shapes our brains. It's powering, but kind of daunting, too.
It makes you think about the choices we make every day and how they're shaping us.
That's right.
So as we go deeper into shaping our brains, I'm wondering, how can we be more mindful of what we're, I guess, feeding our brains?
That's a great question. And one that deserves its own deep dive. We've talked about some key things already. Mindful eating, mental exercise, new experiences. But there's a lot more to explore.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from the basics of how our brains make new cells all the way to practical tips for shaping our own minds.
Yeah, it really makes you think we can literally change the physical structure of our brains, our whole lives.
It is incredible and empowering, but it also makes you stop and think about the choices you're making each day.
Absolutely. It all matters. Everything we're taking in, all our habits, even what we're saying to ourselves is shaping our brains for better or for worse.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have that power, how can we be more intentional about what we're putting into our brains?
Well, we've talked about some great stuff already. Mindful eating, mental exercise, trying new things. Those are all fantastic for healthy brains.
So it's about really paying attention to what we're putting into our minds. If it's negativity, stress, bad habits, it's going to have an impact.
Right. But if we're choosing to focus on good things, learning healthy habits, it's like we're creating the perfect environment for growth.
Like we're gardening, but for our brains.
I like that. And just like a garden, it takes time and effort to see results.
This has been so insightful, but I do want to come back to synaptic pruning for a second. That idea is kind of a brain teaser, but also so fascinating.
Right. It shows just how dynamic our brains really are. We've got Neurogenesis, building those new connections, and then we've got synaptic pruning, where our brain says, okay, we're not using these connections, let's get rid of them.
The brain is always reorganizing.
Exactly. Think of it like cleaning out a closet. You get rid of the things you don't use anymore to make space.
Makes sense. So it's more efficient.
Exactly. And the cool thing is we have more control over this than we realize. Everything we do, every new skill, every conversation, it all strengthens some connections and lets others fade.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question. What habits, thought patterns, activities, what's getting hardwired into your brain right now? And what's being pruned away, neglected?
Such a good question. It reminds us that we have the power to shape our own minds.
You are the architect of your own brain. You choose what you focus on, you choose what you learn, and you choose who you become. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.